Our culture wears busyness like it's a badge of honor, right? It's all about constant motion, always being productive. But a really strange thing happens when that hustle mentality starts to creep into our faith. We know we're called to serve, but what happens when that service starts to drain us instead of actually filling us up? So, how do we serve from a place of strength and not from a place of stress? Let's get into it.
Does this question hit home for you? Because if it does, you are definitely not alone. It's this quiet struggle that so many people face, especially those who are always giving their all. You can be on the front lines, doing all the right things for God, but on the inside, you're running on empty. You feel disconnected from the very one you're trying to serve.
Okay, so this is basically the whole conversation in a nutshell. It all comes down to a choice. Are you serving from a place of strain or a place of overflow? And look at the words here. Serving from strain, that's fueled by anxiety and pressure, and it will always lead to exhaustion. But serving from overflow, that comes from a place of abundance, and the results are joy and a real clear sense of purpose. This is the critical shift we're going to explore.
To really get what we're talking about, let's dive into a story. Think of it as a modern parable that, well, I think a lot of us are going to find it uncomfortably familiar.
So meet Angela. Does she sound familiar? She's that person that everyone, and I mean everyone, counts on. If there was a need, Angela was there. Her calendar was just jam-packed with church activities and ministry work. On the outside, she looked like an absolute superstar volunteer. But here's what was really happening on the inside. This was her confession, and it just reveals the massive cost of her nonstop service. The joy was gone. It was replaced by this deep-seated weariness and a really painful sense of spiritual distance. You see, she was doing everything for God, but she wasn't doing it with God.
And you know what's crazy? This isn't some new 21st century problem. Angela's story is really a modern retelling of that biblical story of two sisters, Mary and Martha. Remember? When Jesus visited their home, Martha got busy with all the preparations. She was stressed, she was distracted. Mary, on the other hand, chose to simply sit at Jesus' feet and listen. She chose presence over performance.
Now, Jesus' response here, it's so important. This wasn't a scolding. It was a gentle course correction. He was just pointing out that in all her frantic activity, she was completely missing the one thing that truly mattered, that connection with him.
So, what's the big deal? What happens when we keep going down Martha's path, when our service becomes more about performance than it is about a partnership with God? Well, that path leads to some very real dangers.
It really boils down to these three massive losses. First, you lose your joy. Service just becomes a duty, not a delight. Second, you lose your clarity. You start saying yes to absolutely everything because you lose sight of what God actually called you to do. And finally, and maybe most importantly, you lose your connection. The activity starts to replace the relationship.
Okay, so that's the problem, and it's a big one. But here is the good news. There is a better way. There's a framework for serving that prevents burnout and brings back the joy. And the perfect model for this? It's Jesus himself.
This is the goal right here, serving from overflow. And think about this analogy because it's so powerful. Are you trying to pour for others from a cup that's already empty, just scraping the dregs at the bottom? Or are you so full of God's peace and presence that your service is simply the natural overflow of what you've already received? That is a game-changing difference. And Jesus lived this out perfectly. Before he went out to teach the crowds, to heal people, to give of himself, what did he do? He retreated. He went to a quiet place to connect with the Father. He received before he gave. He listened before he spoke. He served from the Father's strength, not just his own. So how do we actually do this? How do we apply this model? Well, it comes down to three really practical steps. Number one, refill before you pour. Make that intentional time with God your absolute non-negotiable priority. 2, know your assignment. Listen, not every need is your calling. Get crystal clear on what God has specifically asked you to do. And 3, serve with joy, not pressure. Let your joy be the indicator that you're in the right lane.
This verse just nails that third point, doesn't it? The Bible doesn't say serve the Lord with exhaustion or serve the Lord out of a sense of grim duty. No, it says to serve with gladness. Joy is meant to be the fuel for our service, a sign that we are truly aligned with the Spirit.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Shifting your whole mindset from strain to overflow, that sounds hard, and it is. It takes practice.
It's about renewing our minds day after day. So I want to give you a practical tool you can start using immediately to stay aligned with this new rhythm.
Speaking truths like these over yourself, it can fundamentally change your whole approach. I mean, think about this one. My identity is not in my work, it's in Christ. Whoa, that's powerful. It completely separates your worth from your performance. Or how about this one? Rest is not weakness, it's worship. That reframes taking a break as a spiritual act, not some kind of failure.
So as we bring this all together, if there's one thing you walk away with, please let it be this. If you feel weary and burdened and just totally depleted by your service, that is not the plan. God's call on your life is not a call to burnout. It's an invitation to live and serve from a place of deep spiritual abundance.
And really, it all comes back to this beautiful, simple promise from Psalm 23. This is the goal. Not an empty cup, not even a half-full cup, but a cup that is so full of God's goodness that it can't help but overflow into the lives of everyone around you. Now that is serving from strength.
Enjoyed this video? Buy me a coffee. Link in the description below. Thanks for watching.
Now available on Amazon.com. Unlock the transformative power of positive affirmations with this essential guide by certified personal development coach and motivational speaker, Dennis of DennisMotivates.com. In Affirm Your Greatness, you'll discover the science behind affirmations and learn how to craft personalized affirmations that resonate with your unique journey. Get your copy today. Find the link in the description. Thanks.